Hi everyone, welcome to this week's video. This is also another informative one. Recently, while driving the Avensis, I noticed some vibration coming from one of the wheels, especially at highway speeds. At first, I thought to myself that it was probably a wheel out of balance, but on later examination while traveling, I noticed that whenever I pressed on the brake, the steering wheel also shook. So that told me there was definitely something wrong with one of the front wheels or part of the suspension in the front. So let's dive right into it and see what we find. With the suspect wheel raised off the ground and the car supported on the jack stand at the front right corner, I'm now going to shake the wheel like I'm showing here to check for play. So doing this, I don't know if you can pick that, but I can feel some looseness in this direction. That's from holding the wheel at the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions, like I'm showing. So I can feel some movement here. So checking the 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock positions, everything's rigid. So what could cause this to happen? It's either the tie rod end, or the inner tie rod, or the ball joint. So right now I'm going to take off the wheel and then we'll investigate further. So now we have the wheel off. I'm now going to try to zero in on the exact cause of the wheel looseness. So I'm going to grab the tie rod end and try to move it. All the while I'm checking to see if the play is in the outer tie rod end or the inner tie rod. So I'm grabbing onto the sides to feel for any movement. So from what I can feel, the looseness is from the inner tie rod end, because holding the outer, I can't feel any significant movement. And I can hear a squishing noise coming from the inner tie rod end. So I guess our fault is with the inner tie rod. So I'm going to take off the outer tie rod end and then actually pull on the tie rod to confirm that the fault is actually on the inner tie rod end. With the outer tie rod disconnected, pulling on the whole setup in a jerky fashion, checking the inner tie rod. I can't feel any play, but obviously examining the outer tie rod can feel a lot of looseness and feels crunchy too. So I'd say our issue lies with the outer tie rod end. So before loosening this locking nut right here, I'm going to take a little measurement so that when I put everything back together, the alignment won't be far off. So let me get the replacement part and then we'll proceed from there. Here's the replacement part I have, comprising the inner and outer tie rods. Unfortunately, I'll need to replace both of them at the same time because the outer tie rod is of a different length. If I put it side by side with the one on the vehicle right now, we can see that the outer tie rod is definitely longer on the one presently on the vehicle compared to the replacement part. So the one to the left is the replacement part, the one to the right is the one presently on the vehicle. The one presently on the vehicle gets to this point I'm tapping on right now, and the replacement part stops right here. So I'll need to take off the whole thing. So to do that, I'll need to loosen the locking nut right here. So to facilitate that, I'm going to temporarily attach the outer tie rod back onto the knuckle and then loosen the locking nut so that I can untwist the outer tie rod. So I'll get that done right now. With the outer tie rod removed, here's what we have. I'm going to be using the dirt mark right here to note the distance inwards that I'll need to set the replacement tie rod to. We can see a clear demarcation between the very dusty end right here and the shiny portion. So that's what I'll be using to adjust the length of the replacement. So right now I'm taking off the locking nut so that I can take off the inner boot next. So let me get that done, then we'll move on to taking off the inner tie rod. Here's what we have with the inner tie rod boot taken off. So I'm going to be attaching my inner tie rod tool on here so that I can unscrew this. So let me get it out. Here's the inner tie rod that I'm making use of. So I'll be setting it up right now, then we'll proceed from there. Now I have the inner tie rod tool set up. So using my 3/8 ratchet and some extensions, I'm going to break the inner tie rod loose. Finally broke it loose. I must admit that was extremely tight, much tighter than I anticipated. So here it is, coming right off. So there it is. That's how the tool works. So right now I'm going to detach the tool, measure out the length, and then install the replacement part. So right now I have the inner tie rod tightened and secured. I applied some medium thread lock on there so that it doesn't back out. Also I applied some high temperature grease to the inner joint right there, as you can see, red in color. So next I'm going to do, put on the boot and then fix on the outer tie rod, and then we'll check if we still have any play. Full installed and the quarter pin installed too, very important because you don't want that nut backing out while you're driving. I'm now going to mount the wheel and then we'll check if there's any free play left. So let me do that right now. So with the wheel tightened appreciably, I'm now going to check if I still have any free play. So checking now, I can still feel some free play, so that means the ball joint is also loose. Strange at times, but it happens. You have more than one item gone bad on your vehicle. So in this case, I also have a bad ball joint. So I'm going to replace that now. Here's the ball joint of this Toyota Avensis. It has two nuts at the bottom and then one bolt that goes through, and then obviously the ball portion has a nut, this one right here. So it should be pretty straightforward. If at all anything's going to be difficult to get out, it's going to be the ball itself from the knuckle. So let's dive right into it. I also have a used part. Here's it. Oh, here it is. Right here. So let's dive right into it. So first I'm going to take off the two nuts and then the bolt that goes through the bottom, and then I'll take off the cotter pin, and then we'll take out the ball portion nut and separate it from knuckle. So after loosening the upper nut, as you can see, I used a 3-pound hammer to hit on the knuckle right there, and right now the ball joint is free. I'm gonna get my pry bar to show it here, right here, so you can see that it's loose. So I'm going to go right ahead to take everything apart, and then we'll proceed from there. To make the job easier, I had to find a way to compress the strut assembly spring. So here's the bad ball joint. You can feel a lot of free play right there. Definitely this is also gone bad. So there's what we have down right there. So I'm going to slide in the replacement ball joint right now and bolt everything back together. So the jack definitely made the job a lot easier. So I have everything lined up right now. So looking at the two nuts and the bolt underneath, I'm going to tighten everything right now, and then we'll go from there. Right now all the nuts and the bolts are fully secured. Obviously I'm left with a cotter pin on this nut right here. So let me get that installed, and then we'll have the wheel back on and check if we still have any free play. There it is. I have the cotter pin installed and all tightened nuts and bolts. So I'm going to put the wheel back on now and check for any free play. So it's the moment of truth again. Right now I have the wheel secured back on. I'm yet to torque down the nuts, but the nuts are tight enough that it won't cause any wobble. So let's check for any free play in the wheel. Obviously I can see that's a win. I can't feel any free play at all. Feels solid. So I'll call that a win. So fellas, hope you gained something in this video. Whenever you hold a wheel at the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock positions and you have some free play right there, it's not always just the tie rod, or it's not always the tie rod. It could also be your ball joint, especially on a McPherson strut suspension like we have on here. So if you liked the content of the video, ensure you give me a thumbs up, give me a like. If you're here to subscribe, what are you waiting for? There's lots more where this came from. So hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so I get notified whenever I upload a new video. To all my existing subscribers, you fellas are the best. I can't wait to have you join the family. To all those that are yet to subscribe, remember to share the video also. Also, leave me a comment. Have you done this job before? Do you find it impossible to do? Leave me a comment. I'd like to hear from you. If you'd like to know more about the Toyota Avensis and my ownership experience, you can click the link in the top right hand corner. Also, in case you didn't notice, the Avensis will be clocking 300,000 kilometers very soon, and I can't wait to cover that milestone. Well, catch you in the next video next week. Bye for now.